Golden Washington had learned three things in 6 months of marriage. Kimchi could survive a nuclear winter. Her husband's heart was colder than a Korean freezer in January. And pregnancy tests should come with warning labels that read, may cause your mob boss husband to experience human emotions for the first time. She was about to discover that the third thing was the most dangerous. Welcome, viewers. Where in the map are you watching from? Golden Washington was hiding in bathroom number 4. Not her favorite. That was bathroom 6 with the heated floors, but had the best lock and was furthest from Tae-jun's office where he conducted his import-export business. Import-export was code for things Golden had learned not to ask about after finding a briefcase full of cash and what looked suspiciously like someone's dental records. The pregnancy test sat on the marble counter like a tiny plastic judge, its two pink lines delivering a verdict that would either get her deported or deleted. In the Kong family, Golden wasn't entirely sure there was a difference. Her hands shook as she picked it up again, hoping maybe she'd hallucinated the second line. She hadn't. If anything, it looked pinker, more emphatic, like it was doubling down on ruining her life. This is fine, she whispered to her reflection. Everything is fine. Her reflection, a 24-year-old black woman with dark circles under her eyes and her natural hair, pulled into a messy bun, looked unconvinced. The reflection was right to be skeptical. Nothing about Golden's life had been fine since her father had decided Korean casinos were excellent places to fund his Falcons season tickets. The penthouse stretched out beyond the bathroom like a museum of things Golden wasn't allowed to touch. 1,600 square feet of marble, glass, and passive-aggressive interior design that screamed new money trying to cosplay old money. Mrs. Kong had decorated it herself, which explained why every room felt like it was judging Golden for existing. Tae-jun's mother had taste, money, and the warmth of a loan shark's collection notice. She'd picked Golden specifically because she was the most inappropriate bride imaginable. A black American woman with no connections, no money, and a father who owed them enough to buy a small country. Or at least a nice condo in Gangnam. Golden had been married for 6 months, 12 days, and approximately 7 hours. She knew the exact time because she'd been counting like a prisoner marking days on a cell wall. Except her cell had a sub-zero refrigerator and a husband who looked at her like she was a parking ticket he couldn't dispute. Kang Tae-jun was 31, devastatingly handsome in that specific way that made people nervous, and had the emotional range of a tax audit. His tattoos, elaborate dragons, and phoenixes crawling up both arms and across his chest were the only passionate thing about him. Golden had seen them exactly twice. Once on their wedding night when he'd changed shirts and immediately left for a business meeting, and once when he'd emerged from his bedroom at 3 a.m. looking for antacids. Their wedding night had been less honeymoon and more hostage situation with better catering. This is a business arrangement, he'd said in perfect English, his accent barely noticeable. You'll have your own room. We will maintain appearances in public. In private, we are strangers who share an address. Golden had nodded, relieved and devastated in equal measure. At least he wasn't expecting, well, clearly the universe had a different plan, because here she was, pregnant from the world's most tragic marriage. Except they'd never oh no, the memorial service. Tae-jun's grandfather. 3 months ago, Golden's stomach dropped like an elevator with cut cables. She'd gotten drunk on soju because Mrs. Kong kept introducing her as the help who married up, and Tae-jun had gotten drunk because apparently even gangsters had feelings about their grandparents dying. They'd stumbled into his bedroom, and then there was crying, his fumbling, mutual, and what Golden had diplomatically blocked from her memory as an incident we shall never speak of. They had, indeed, never spoken of it. Tae-jun had left for Tokyo the next morning and stayed there for 2 weeks. When he returned, he'd begun the longest stretch of aggressive eye contact avoidance in human history. They'd perfected the art of being in the same room while occupying completely different dimensions. And now she was pregnant. Golden looked at the test again. Still positive. Still ruining her life. Okay, she told herself. You're a nursing school dropout. You survived your father's gambling addiction. You survived marrying into a crime family. You can survive telling your emotionally constipated mob boss husband that you're pregnant with his accidental grief baby. The pep talk would have been more effective if her voice hadn't cracked on grief baby. A knock on the bathroom door made her jump so hard she nearly dropped the test in the toilet, which would have been both symbolic and deeply unsatisfying. Golden. Taejun's voice could freeze vodka mid-pour. It was the kind of voice that made people confess to crimes they didn't commit just to make it stop being disappointed in them. I'm busy, she called back, shoving the test in her robe pocket. You've been in there for 40 minutes. Had she? Time moved differently when you were having a crisis. Golden had read that somewhere, probably on the same internet forum that had taught her to hide money in tampon boxes because men never looked there. I'm not feeling well, she said, which was technically true. Morning sickness was well into its third week of making her regret every meal she'd ever eaten. I need to discuss something. Of course he did. Taejun needed to discuss things the way sharks needed to keep swimming. Constantly, efficiently, and with complete disregard for anyone else's schedule. Can it wait? No. Golden closed her eyes. In 6 months, she learned that no in Taejun's vocabulary was less an answer and more a declaration of war against the concept of patience. She unlocked the door. He stood there looking like a Calvin Klein ad directed by the Yakuza. Black suit jacket hanging open over a white t-shirt that revealed the edge of his tattoos. His styled black hair, somehow perfect despite it being 9 a.m. on a Saturday, and an expression that suggested he'd rather be literally anywhere else. His eyes, dark and sharp enough to file taxes with, dropped to her face, then her robe, then back to her face. You look terrible, he said. Good morning to you too, sunshine. Was that sarcasm? In Golden's marriage? More likely than you'd think. Something flickered in Taejun's expression. Surprise, maybe, that his decorative wife had opinions and vocal cords. He recovered quickly, his face resetting to its default setting of vaguely annoyed CEO. My mother is coming for lunch. Golden's stomach lurched. Morning sickness or maternal-in-law sickness? The line had blurred. When? 1 hour. And you're telling me now? I'm telling you now, he confirmed, like this was perfectly reasonable and not a declaration of psychological warfare. Mrs. Kang's visits were less social calls and more military inspections. She would examine the apartment for dust, Golden's appearance for impropriety, and their marriage for signs of genuine affection, which she would immediately weaponize as evidence of her son's weakness. The pregnancy test burned in Golden's pocket like radioactive evidence. I'll get ready, Golden said. Taejun nodded, already turning away, then stopped. He turned back, and for a moment, just a flash, something uncertain crossed his face. Are you? He paused, looking uncomfortable with whatever he was about to say. Are you actually ill? Was that concern? From Taejun, Golden waited for the ceiling to collapse or for a locust plague to start. I am fine, she lied. He studied her for a long moment, his analytical gaze cataloging details Golden didn't want cataloged. The circles under her eyes, the way she'd lost weight everywhere except her face, the fact that she'd been wearing the same robe for 3 days. You're a terrible liar, he said finally. Yeah, well, you're a terrible husband, so we're even. The words were out before Golden could stop them. 6 months of swallowed dignity, deportation threats, and living like an expensive ghost had apparently eroded her self-preservation instinct. Taejun's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes sharpened. He stepped closer, not threatening, just present in a way he usually wasn't. Golden could smell his cologne, something expensive that probably cost more than her old car. Is that what you think? His voice was quieter now, which somehow made it worse. Taejun yelling would have been better. This felt personal. I think, Golden said carefully, that we should both get ready for your mother's visit. He was close enough now that Golden could see the small scar above his left eyebrow, the one he'd gotten in what his brother had drunkenly referred to as the Busan incident. She'd never asked. People who asked about scars in this family tended to get uncomfortable answers. After lunch, Taejun said, We're going to talk. About everything. He turned and walked away, leaving Golden in the bathroom doorway with a positive pregnancy test, a lying problem, and a sinking feeling that everything was about to get significantly worse. She had 1 hour to shower, dress appropriately for maternal judgment, hide all evidence of pregnancy, and figure out how to survive lunch with a mother-in-law who viewed her as a living, breathing insult to the family name. The pregnancy test seemed to mock her from her pocket. "This is fine," Golden whispered again. "Everything is fine." Somewhere in the penthouse, Taejun's phone rang with the ringtone he'd assigned to his mother, the theme from Jaws. Golden started laughing, then crying, then couldn't quite tell the difference anymore. Welcome to marriage, she thought. Population: 2 liars and 1 accidental baby. Mrs. Kong arrived at 12:47 p.m., which meant she was fashionably late by exactly 13 minutes. The perfect amount of time to signal importance without appearing rude. Golden had learned that everything the woman did was calculated, including her breathing patterns. "Golden, sure," Mrs. Kong said, using the Korean honorific like a weapon. She never said it warmly. It always sounded like she was identifying a stain on expensive fabric. "Mother Kong," Golden replied, bowing at exactly 90 degrees. Too shallow, and she was disrespectful. Too deep, and she was mocking. The Kong family had rules for everything, including how to bend your spine. Mrs. Kong swept past her into the penthouse wearing a cream Chanel suit that probably cost more than Golden's father's total debt. Her hair was pulled into a perfect chignon, her makeup flawless, her expression radiating the warmth of a tax collector at a funeral. Taejun emerged from his office, and Golden watched something she'd never quite gotten used to. Her husband transforming into a son. His shoulders relaxed microscopically, his jaw unclenched by a fraction. He almost smiled. "Yama," he said, embracing his mother with actual affection. They spoke in rapid Korean, too fast for Golden to follow with her survival-level language skills. She caught words: business, uncle, something about property in Gangnam. Mrs. Kong laughed at something Taejun said, a genuine sound that Golden had never heard directed at her. For 5 full minutes, Golden stood in her own living room, invisible. She'd set the table with the good china, the set Mrs. Kong had given them as a wedding present, with the unspoken message that Golden would inevitably break it. She'd ordered from the Korean restaurant Mrs. Kong preferred, making sure to get the specific banchan side dishes the woman liked. She'd even worn the conservative navy dress that made her look like she was attending a funeral for her own personality. None of it mattered. "The table," Mrs. Kong said finally, switching to English as she sat down. "The napkins are folded incorrectly." Golden looked at the napkins. They were folded into perfect triangles, exactly like the YouTube tutorial she'd watched at 6 a.m. "I apologize," Golden said, because that's what she always said. "In Korea, we have standards." Mrs. Kang's smile could cut glass. "But of course, you wouldn't know that." Taejun said nothing. He never did. They ate in a silence punctuated only by Mrs. Kang's commentary on everything Golden had done wrong. The soup was too salty. It wasn't. The apartment looked dusty. It didn't. Golden's dress was inappropriate. It was literally a sack. "You look unwell," Mrs. Kong observed, her eyes scanning Golden like a medical report she disapproved of. "Are you eating properly?" "Yes, Mother Kong." Because Taejun needs a wife who can maintain herself. Not someone who looks. She waved her hand vaguely. "Tired." Golden's fingers tightened on her chopsticks. In her pocket, the pregnancy test felt like it was burning a hole through the fabric. "She's fine, Iyama," Taejun said, his voice flat. "Fine." Mrs. Kong laughed. "Taejuna, look at her. She's lost weight. Her skin is dull. When I selected her, she was at least presentable." Selected? Like Golden was a handbag. "I said she's fine." Taejun's voice carried a warning edge that made his mother pause, then smile wider. "Of course. You would know better than I would about your wife's condition." The way she said "wife" made it sound like a communicable disease. After lunch, which felt longer than Golden's entire childhood, Mrs. Kong finally left, but not before pulling Taejun aside for a private conversation in Korean. Golden caught only fragments, unsuitable, embarrassment, and something that sounded like still time to fix this. The door closed. Golden started clearing the table, her hands shaking. "Leave it," Taejun said. "I need to," I said. "Leave it." His voice cracked like a whip. Golden froze, a plate suspended in midair. Taejun stood by the window, his back to her, his shoulders tight with tension. When he finally turned around, his face was a mask of cold fury. "Do you enjoy making me look incompetent?" Golden blinked. "What?" "The apartment. The lunch. Everything." He gestured sharply. My mother thinks I can't even control my own household. I did everything she asked. You did everything wrong. He stepped closer, and Golden instinctively stepped back. The napkins, the soup, your appearance. Do you think I don't hear what she says about you? About us? That's not my fault. Everything is your fault. His voice rose, sharp and cutting. You think I wanted this? You think I wanted to be shackled to someone who can't even fold a napkin correctly? Who embarrasses me in front of my own mother? The words hit like physical blows. Golden felt something crack inside her chest, something that had been barely holding together for 6 months. Your father's debt bound me to you, Taejun continued, his voice dropping to something worse than yelling, cold, precise cruelty. Every day I look at you, I'm reminded that I'm paying for a gambling addict's mistakes. You are a debt, Golden, a walking, breathing IOU that I have to feed and house and pretend to respect. Golden's vision blurred. She would not cry. She had promised herself she would never cry in front of him. I cook your food, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I clean this place. I learn your language. I bow to your mother. I make myself small and quiet and invisible. What more do you want from me? I want you to be worth it. The words exploded out of him. I want you to be worth the money, the embarrassment, the constant reminder that my mother thinks I'm weak. But you're not. You're just here, taking up space, using oxygen that could go to someone useful. Something inside Golden shattered completely. She'd survived her father's gambling. She'd survived being sold like property. She'd survived 6 months of being treated like a ghost. But this casual confirmation that she was worthless, that her existence was a burden, that every breath she took was theft, this was different. I'm pregnant, she said. The words fell into the space between them like a grenade with a pin pulled. Taejun's expression didn't change immediately. For 3 full seconds, he just stared at her, his brain clearly trying to process information that didn't compute. What did you say? I'm pregnant. Golden pulled the test from her pocket with shaking hands and held it up like evidence at a trial. 3 months. From your grandfather's memorial service. When you were human for approximately 45 minutes. The test trembled in her grip. 2 pink lines, clear as day, undeniable as death. Taejun stared at it, then at her, then back at the test. His face went through several expressions in rapid succession. Shock, disbelief, anger, and something that might have been fear if Taejun was capable of fear. That's not possible, he said finally. Apparently your sperm didn't get the memo about our business arrangement. Condoms aren't perfect. Surprise. Golden's voice cracked. Congratulations. Your debt just got a lot more complicated. Taejun's hand rose to his face, rubbing his temples like he was trying to physically push the information out of his brain. His tattooed fingers pressed against his forehead, and Golden watched the dragons on his knuckles ripple with tension. This can't be happening, he muttered. Well, it is. So maybe you can add that to your list of things that are my fault. He looked at her then, really looked at her, and Golden saw something flicker in his eyes. Not anger, not disgust, something worse. Panic. My mother, he said slowly, cannot know about this. Of course. Not are you okay? Or do you need anything? Or even how did this happen? Just immediate damage control. Golden laughed. It came out broken and wrong, like a sob pretending to be humor. Your mother, right? Because that's the priority here. You don't understand? I understand perfectly. Golden threw the pregnancy test at him. It bounced off his chest and clattered to the marble floor. I'm a debt that just became a liability. I'm a mistake that made another mistake. Her voice broke completely. Taejun bent down slowly, picking up the test. He stared at it for a long moment, his expression unreadable. When he looked up, his eyes were dark with something Golden couldn't name. We'll talk tonight, he said quietly. After I think. Then he walked to his office and closed the door, leaving Golden alone in a penthouse that felt like a mausoleum. She slid down the wall, finally letting the tears come. Somewhere in her body, a cluster of cells was dividing, growing, becoming a person who would be born into this mess. A child who would inherit her father's debt, her mother's broken heart, and a family that viewed love as a ledger to be balanced. Golden wrapped her arms around her knees and cried until she couldn't breathe. This was fine. Everything was fine. Golden woke up on the bathroom floor at 2 a.m., her cheek pressed against the cold marble, her neck screaming in protest. She'd fallen asleep crying, which felt both pathetic and weirdly appropriate for her current life situation. The penthouse was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of Seoul's nightlife 16 floors below. Golden pushed herself up, her body aching like she'd gone 10 rounds with reality and lost every single one. Taejun's office door was still closed. A thin line of light glowed underneath it. Of course, he was still working. The man probably had a void, emotional confrontation scheduled in his calendar between intimidate business rivals and disappoint wife. Golden's stomach growled, then immediately threatened to evict anything she might eat. Morning sickness was a liar. It happened morning, noon, and apparently at 2 a.m. when you were having a full-scale mental breakdown. She made her way to the kitchen, moving quietly out of habit. 6 months of marriage had taught her to be a ghost. Silent, unobtrusive, barely there. The kitchen was her favorite room in the penthouse, because it was the only space that felt remotely like hers. Mrs. Kong had decorated everywhere else, but the kitchen she dismissed as the help's domain. Golden opened a refrigerator, its light flooding the dark kitchen like a spotlight on her misery. Kimchi, expensive Korean side dishes, leftover japchae, and, buried in the back behind Taejun's protein shakes, a box of chicken wings from the American place on the corner that delivered at midnight. She'd ordered them 3 weeks ago during a particularly bad bout of homesickness. They'd cost $30 with delivery, which felt obscene for chicken, but Golden had needed something that tasted like Atlanta, like her mother's kitchen, like a life where she wasn't someone's debt repayment plan. The chicken was probably expired. Golden ate it anyway. She was halfway through her second wing, sitting on the kitchen floor because chairs felt too optimistic when she heard the office door open. Footsteps. Taejun's expensive Italian shoes clicking against marble. Golden froze, a chicken wing suspended halfway to her mouth, sitting on the floor like a raccoon caught raiding a dumpster. Taejun appeared in the kitchen doorway. He'd removed his jacket. His white t-shirt was untucked. His hair, usually perfectly styled, was a mess, like he'd been running his hands through it for hours. The tattoos on his arms seemed more prominent in the dim light, the dragons looking like they were trying to crawl off his skin and escape this awkward situation. They stared at each other. "Are you?" Taejun said slowly. "Eating expired chicken on the kitchen floor at 2 a.m.? Are you judging my coping mechanisms?" "I'm observing them." Golden took another bite of chicken, maintaining eye contact. If he'd already decided she was worthless, she might as well commit to the bit. Taejun rubbed his face with both hands, then walked to the refrigerator. He pulled out a bottle of soju, poured 2 shots into actual shot glasses, because even drunk, he had standards, and sat down on the floor across from her. He slid 1 glass across the marble. Golden stared at it. "I'm pregnant." "I know." He picked up his glass. "You're also having a crisis. The baby will be fine for 1 shot. That's not how pregnancy works. Neither is eating expired chicken. But here we are." He downed a shot in one smooth motion, then poured another. "My accountant called." Of course he did. Because why deal with emotions when you could deal with spreadsheets? "Your father," Taejun continued, "tried to borrow more money. In Macau this time. He used your name as collateral." The chicken wing turned to ash in Golden's mouth. "What?" He told them he has a daughter married to the Kong family. Thought that would be worth another 50,000. Taejun's voice was flat, emotionless. It wasn't. Golden set down the chicken. Her hands were shaking. He's fine. Macau casinos are more professional than loan sharks. They just banned him from all their properties and sent me the courtesy notice. Taejun's jaw tightened. Because apparently I'm now responsible for monitoring your father's gambling radius. I didn't know, you never know. He poured another shot, but didn't drink it. 6 months. Do you know how many times your father has tried to use your name? Tried to borrow money, open credit cards, convince people that the Kong family will cover his debts. Golden felt like she was falling. How many? 17 times. The number hit like a physical blow. And you never told me? What would I tell you? Taejun's laugh was bitter. That your father is systematically trying to destroy what little dignity you have left? That every week I get calls from someone your father tried to scam using your connection to me? That my associates think you're in on it? I'm not, I know. He finally drank the third shot. I have investigators watching him, making sure he doesn't do anything that would force me to. He trailed off. To what? Taejun's eyes met hers, and Golden saw something cold and terrible in them. To make him disappear. The kitchen felt suddenly smaller, colder. Golden remembered that her husband wasn't just an emotionally unavailable asshole in expensive suits. He was dangerous. The kind of dangerous that made people disappear when they became problems. You wouldn't, she whispered. I would if he endangered my family. Taejun's voice was matter of fact, like he was discussing quarterly earnings. Right now, he's a minor annoyance. A mosquito. But if he keeps using your name, keeps trying to leverage our marriage, he becomes a threat. And I eliminate threats. He's my father. He's a gambling addict who sold you to pay his debts and is now trying to sell you again. Taejun leaned forward. When does that stop being my problem and start being yours? Golden wanted to argue, wanted to defend her father, but the words stuck in her throat because Taejun was right. Her father had sold her, and now he was trying to sell her again and again and again. Why are you telling me this now? Taejun was quiet for a long moment, studying his empty shot glass like it held answers. Because you're pregnant, he said finally. And that changes things. Changes what? Everything. He stood up, leaving his shot glass on the floor. My mother can't know. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Why? Because she'll try to fix it. His voice went cold. And her solutions are permanent. Golden's blood turned to ice. I mean, my mother has opinions about bloodlines, about family legacy, about what is and isn't acceptable. Taejun's tattooed hand clenched into a fist. She picked you as punishment for me. A wife unsuitable enough to humiliate me, but controllable enough to manage. A pregnant wife with a gambling addict father who keeps causing problems? That's not punishment anymore. That's a liability she'll want eliminated. The baby or me? Honestly, Taejun's expression was unreadable. Probably both. The expired chicken threatened to make a reappearance. Golden pressed her hand against her stomach, still flat, still hiding its secret. So what do? Taejun raised an eyebrow. There's a we now. There's a baby now. So yes, we. Something shifted in his expression. Surprise, maybe, that his decorative wife had grown a spine somewhere between the crying and the expired chicken. He walked to the kitchen window, staring out at Seoul's glittering skyline. The city looked beautiful from up here, like a circuit board of lights and possibilities. From street level, Golden knew it looked different. Harder, more real. My brother, Taejun said quietly, is getting married next month. Big wedding. Family reunion. Everyone will be there. Congratulations to your brother. My mother will expect us to attend together, to play the role of happily married couple. He turned to face her. Can you do that? Can you smile and bow and pretend you don't hate me for exactly one night? Golden thought about it, about swallowing more dignity, about bowing deeper, about making herself even smaller. Then she thought about the baby growing inside her, about giving that child a chance at life, even in this mess. Yes, she said, but on one condition. Taejun's eyebrow rose again. You're negotiating now. You said I'm a debt. Fine. Let's talk about terms. Golden stood up, leaving her chicken behind. You want me to play happy wife? Then you play happy husband. No more calling me worthless. No more telling me I'm a burden. In public and private. That's not. Those are my terms. Golden's voice was steady now, stronger. You want to save face with your family? Then treat me like I'm worth saving. Taejun stared at her for a long moment. In the dim kitchen light, his tattoos seemed to move, dragons chasing phoenixes across his skin in an eternal dance of predator and prey. 1 month, he said finally, we pretend, we practice, we become convincing. And after the wedding, his smile was sharp enough to draw blood. After the wedding, we figure out how to survive my mother finding out you're pregnant. Great. A plan. Golden picked up the chicken box. I'm going to bed. Golden. She stopped at the doorway. The chicken, Taejun said. Throw it away. I'll order you fresh food tomorrow. It was possibly the nicest thing he'd ever said to her. Golden hated that it made her want to cry again. The Happy Marriage Training Program began at 6 a.m. the next morning when Taejun knocked on Golden's bedroom door like a SWAT team executing a warrant. We're going out, he announced. Golden, who had been enjoying her first decent sleep in weeks, pulled a pillow over her head. It's Saturday. Married couples go out on Saturdays. Happily married couples sleep in on Saturdays. We're practicing. The door opened. Taejun stood there in fitted black jeans and a leather jacket, looking like he was about to film a music video about emotionally unavailable men. Get dressed. We have reservations. For what? Breakfast. Golden sat up, her bonnet slightly askew, her oversized t-shirt with a faded Spelman College logo wrinkled beyond recognition. You made breakfast reservations? My assistant made them. But I'm taking you. It's what husbands do. He said it like he was reading from a manual titled Basic Human Relationships for Sociopaths. Taejun, I look like you look fine. You have 30 minutes. He checked his watch, a Patek Philippe that cost more than a car. 29 minutes now. The door closed. Golden stared at it, then at her reflection in the mirror across the room. She looked like she'd been hit by a truck driven by depression and carrying a cargo of insomnia. This is fine, she muttered, dragging herself to the bathroom. Everything is fine. 28 minutes later, because Golden was petty enough to take the full time plus 1 extra minute, she emerged wearing jeans, a simple black turtleneck, and her natural hair pulled into a high puff. It was the most herself she'd looked in 6 months. Taejun was on his phone, speaking rapid Korean to someone who was clearly getting fired based on his tone. He looked up when she appeared, and something flickered across his face. What? Golden asked. Nothing. Let's go. No, what? Is something wrong with what I'm wearing? I said nothing. He pocketed his phone. You look. He paused, searching for a word. Different. Different bad or different good? Different like I forgot you had a face that could make expressions other than terror and resignation. Golden wasn't sure if that was a compliment or an insult. With Taejun, the line was consistently blurry. They took his car, a black Mercedes that probably had more computing power than NASA. Taejun drove like he did everything else, precisely, efficiently, and with complete disregard for the concept of joy. Where are we going? Golden asked as they merged into Seoul's morning traffic. Itaewon. There's a place. What kind of place? The kind where I won't run into my mother or her friends. Smart. Mrs. Kong considered Itaewon, Seoul's international district, to be culturally contaminated. Too many foreigners, too much English, too much evidence that Korea was part of a larger world she couldn't control. They drove in silence. Golden watched Seoul wake up through the window. Street vendors setting up food carts, elderly people doing Tai Chi in parks, teenagers stumbling home from Noribang rooms where they'd sung their hearts out until dawn. You're staring, Taejun said. I'm looking. There's a difference. You've been here 6 months. Haven't you seen enough? I've been in your penthouse for 6 months. That's different from seeing Seoul. Taejun's hands tightened on the steering wheel. You could have gone out. Could I? Your mother made it pretty clear I'm supposed to stay invisible. Going out means being seen. I never said you couldn't leave. You never said I could. Golden turned to face him. There's a lot you never said, Taejun. Like good morning, or how are you, or hey, maybe don't spend all your time hiding in bathrooms eating expired chicken. His jaw tightened. I'm not good at this. At what? Basic human decency? At pretending. The honesty caught Golden off guard. She'd expected defensiveness, anger, maybe another lecture about how she was a walking dead. Not admission. Then why are we doing this? She asked quietly. Because the alternative is worse. He pulled into a parking spot near a small cafe with English and Korean signs. My mother destroys things she can't control. If she thinks our marriage is real, if she thinks you matter to me, she'll leave you alone. Do I? Matter to you? Taejun turned off the engine. In the sudden silence, Golden could hear her own heartbeat. You're carrying my child, he said finally. That matters. Not you matter. The baby matters. Golden swallowed the disappointment. She'd known better than to hope, but apparently her heart was stupid and optimistic. The cafe was small, cozy, and shockingly empty for a Saturday morning. The owner, a middle-aged Korean woman with kind eyes, greeted Taejun like family. Taejun, ah. She hugged him, then looked at Golden with unconcealed curiosity. And this is my wife. Golden. The words sounded foreign coming from him, like he was speaking a language he'd learned phonetically without understanding the meaning. Your wife. The woman's face lit up. Finally, I said, Tae-jun, you work too much. You need someone. Sit, sit. They sat at a corner table. The woman brought them menus, tea, and a conspiratorial whisper to Tae-jun in Korean that made his ears turn red. What did she say? Golden asked after the woman left. Nothing. Your ears are red. They're not. They absolutely are. Golden leaned forward. Come on. Part of this practicing thing is you telling me things. Tae-jun sighed, looking like she'd asked him to solve world hunger before breakfast. She said, you're very beautiful, and I'm lucky, and if I mess this up, she'll hit me with a spatula. Despite everything, the pregnancy, the debt, the disaster of a marriage, Golden laughed. Actually laughed. Not the broken sound from yesterday, but real amusement. Tae-jun stared at her like she'd sprouted wings. What? Golden asked. I've never heard you laugh before. You've never said anything funny before. The spatula threat was funny. The idea of you being threatened by a spatula-wielding ajumma is hilarious. Something almost resembling a smile touched Tae-jun's lips. It was gone so fast Golden might have imagined it. The food arrived, American-style pancakes, eggs, bacon, and toast. Comfort food. Home food. Golden's eyes watered. Is something wrong? Tae-jun asked, genuine concern in his voice. I haven't had pancakes since Atlanta. She picked up her fork. Your mother only approves of Korean breakfast. My mother isn't here. No, Golden cut into her pancakes. She's not. They ate in silence. But it was different from the hostile silences of the past 6 months. This felt almost comfortable, like two people sharing a meal instead of two prisoners sharing a cell. Halfway through breakfast, Tae-jun's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression darkened. What is it? Nothing. We're practicing honesty, remember? Tae-jun set down his phone, his jaw tight. Your father. He's in the hospital. Golden's fork clattered to her plate. What? Minor injuries. He tried to run when the Macau casino's collectors found him in Busan. Tae-jun's voice was clinical, detached. Twisted his ankle fleeing downstairs. Very dramatic. Is he okay? He's fine. Whining about how everyone's against him, probably. Tae-jun picked up his coffee. My people are watching him, making sure it doesn't escalate. I should call him. No, Tae-jun, he's my father. He's a liability who will use your concern to manipulate you into giving him money you don't have so he can lose it in another casino. Tae-jun's eyes were hard. That's not a father. That's a parasite with a good origin story. The words were cruel. They were also, Golden realized with sick certainty, completely accurate. She thought about her childhood, her father missing birthdays for poker games, her mother working double shifts to cover his losses, the electricity getting shut off while he swore this time would be different. Her mother had died of a stress-induced heart attack when Golden was 19. The doctors said it was genetic. Golden knew better. I hate him, she whispered. Good. That's not good, Tae-jun. He's still my father. Biologically, yes. Functionally, Tae-jun leaned back. He stopped being your father when he sold you to cover his debt. Golden wanted to argue, wanted to defend the man who'd raised her, taught her to ride a bike, told her bedtime stories. But that man had died years ago, replaced by someone who saw his daughter as an ATM with a heartbeat. If you want to survive my family, Tae-jun said quietly, you need to understand something. Loyalty is a transaction. Love is leverage. Family is just people who share your blood until they decide your blood isn't worth the trouble. That's the most depressing thing I've ever heard. Welcome to the Kong family philosophy. He signaled for the check. Are you ready to practice being happy? Golden looked at her half-eaten pancakes, thought about her hospitalized gambling addict father, her mother-in-law who wanted her dead, and her husband who viewed emotions as quarterly reports to be filed and forgotten. No, she said honestly, but let's do it anyway. Tae-jun almost smiled again. That's the spirit. The practicing continued for the next 2 weeks with the enthusiasm of a tax audit and the romance of a dental procedure. Monday, Tae-jun took Golden to a movie. They sat in silence for 2 hours watching a Korean action film where Golden understood approximately 30% of the dialogue and 100% of the explosions. Afterward, Tae-jun asked if she enjoyed it. Golden said yes because the alternative was explaining that she'd spent most of the movie wondering if their baby would inherit his emotional constipation or her terrible luck. Tuesday, They went grocery shopping together. Tae-jun pushed the cart like he was defusing a bomb, carefully, precisely, with deep resentment. An elderly woman told them they made a lovely couple. Golden laughed so hard she almost threw up in the frozen food section. Morning sickness, not the absurdity. Probably. Wednesday, Tae-jun worked late. Golden ate kimchi fried rice alone at the kitchen counter and watched YouTube videos on how to survive Korean in-laws. The top comment on one video read, "You don't survive, you endure." Helpful. Thursday, they had dinner at a restaurant where Tae-jun's business associates coincidentally appeared. Golden smiled until her face hurt, laughed at jokes she didn't understand, and let Tae-jun's hand rest on her lower back like a brand of ownership. Afterward in the car, he said, "You did well." Golden wasn't sure if she should feel proud or disgusted with herself. She felt both. Friday, the morning sickness got worse. Golden spent 3 hours curled around the toilet, while Tae-jun knocked periodically asking if she was still alive in there. When she finally emerged, he'd left ginger tea and crackers outside the bathroom door. No note, no explanation, just tea and crackers, like an emotionally constipated fairy godmother. Saturday, they went to Namsan Tower because apparently that's what couples did. They took the cable car up, walked around the observation deck, and looked at the locks that couples attached to the fence. Thousands of them, each one a promise of eternal love, or at least eternal optimism. "Do you want to put a lock?" Tae-jun asked. Golden stared at the locks, each one inscribed with names and dates and hearts and forever. "No," she said. "Let's not lie to a fence." Tae-jun's mouth twitched. Fair enough. They stood there, looking out at Seoul, sprawling beneath them like a circuit board of possibilities, and Golden felt the baby flutter for the first time. Just a tiny movement, like a goldfish bumping against a bowl. She gasped. "What?" Tae-jun turned to her, instantly alert. "What's wrong?" "Nothing. I just..." Golden pressed her hand to her stomach. "I think I felt the baby move." Tae-jun stared at her hand like it was a complex mathematical equation. "Already? Isn't it too early? I'm almost 4 months. It's called quickening." Golden had been reading every pregnancy book she could find, hiding them under a mattress like they were contraband. "It's normal. Can I?" He stopped himself, looking uncomfortable. "Can you what?" "Nothing. Forget it." Tae-jun. He shoved his hands in his pockets, looking anywhere but at her. "Can I feel it?" The question hung between them like something fragile. Golden took his hand, tattooed, strong, covered in dragons that seemed to shimmer in the afternoon light, and placed it on her stomach, over her sweater, over the tiny life they'd accidentally created during a night of grief and soju. They stood like that for a full minute. The baby didn't move again. Of course it didn't. Babies had terrible timing. "I don't feel anything," Tae-jun said. "Yeah, baby's camera shy." He left his hand there anyway, and Golden pretended not to notice that he was holding his breath. Sunday night, 2 days before his brother's wedding, Tae-jun knocked on Golden's bedroom door at 11 p.m. "We need to talk about Wednesday," he said. Golden looked up from her phone where she'd been Googling how to fake happiness at a Korean wedding. The results were not encouraging. "What about it?" "My entire family will be there. Uncles, aunts, cousins, my grandmother." He leaned against the doorframe. "They're going to ask questions." "What kind of questions?" "How we met. How I proposed. When we're having children." He paused on that last one. The usual interrogation disguised as conversation. "What do we tell them?" "The truth." At Golden's expression, he clarified. "A version of the truth. We met through family business. I was immediately taken with you." He said it like he was reciting a grocery list. "We married quickly because when you know, you know." That's the worst love story I've ever heard. You have a better one. Literally anything would be better. "We met when he bought me to cover my father's gambling debts," has more romantic tension. Tae-jun almost smiled. He'd been almost smiling more lately. Golden had started counting them like small victories. "Fine. You write the story. Really, you're better at lying than I am." "I'm not sure if that's a compliment or an insult." "Both." He walked into her room. The first time he'd been inside since their wedding night. His eyes scanned the space. Her books stacked on the nightstand, her laptop open on the bed, her clothes draped over the chair because she'd stopped pretending to be perfect. "We met at a charity event," Golden said, surprising herself. You were there for business. I was volunteering. You spilled wine on my dress. I would never be that clumsy. Fine. I spilled wine on your suit. Better. You were annoyed. I was mortified. But then we started talking, and you made me laugh. Golden was warming to the story now, building a fantasy version of them. You asked for my number. I said no because I don't date men who wear suits that cost more than my rent. Accurate assessment. But you persisted. You showed up at the charity the next week with coffee and an apology. We talked for 3 hours. You told me about your family business, the legal parts. There are legal parts? We're telling a story. Tae-jun, work with me. Golden sat up straighter. You took me to that cafe in Itaewon. The one with the Ajumma who threatened you with a spatula. That's real, though. I know. That's why it's believable. Golden's voice softened. You proposed on Namsan Tower. No lock because I said grand gestures were overrated. Just you, me, and the city lights. Tae-jun was quiet for a long moment, his expression unreadable. That's a good story, he said finally. It's a lie. All the best love stories are. Golden wanted to ask what he meant by that, but he was already walking toward the door. Tae-jun, he paused, his hand on the doorframe. At the wedding, Golden said carefully, how affectionate do we need to be? His jaw tightened. What do you mean? Do we hold hands? Do you put your arm around me? Do we? She couldn't say kiss. The word stuck in her throat. We do what feels natural. Nothing about this feels natural. Then we fake it. He met her eyes. We've been faking everything else. What's one more performance? After he left, Golden sat in the dark, her hand on her stomach where the baby had fluttered earlier. Your parents are disasters, she whispered. But we're trying. That count for something, right? The baby didn't answer. Babies were terrible conversationalists. Golden's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Asterisk. Your husband thinks he can protect you. He's wrong. A friend. Asterisk, her blood turned cold. She screenshot the message and walked to Tae-jun's office. The door was open. He sat at his desk, surrounded by papers and laptop screens, looking like a general planning a war. Tae-jun. He looked up, saw her face, and immediately stood. What happened? She showed him the message. His expression went from concern to lethal in half a second. He took her phone, his jaw clenching as he read. When did this come? Just now. He was already dialing. Jin Ho. I need a trace on a number. Now. Yes, now. I don't care what you're doing. He rattled off a number in Korean, then hung up. It's probably nothing, Golden said, not believing it. It's not nothing. Tae-jun's voice was cold, controlled fury. Someone is watching us. Someone wants you scared. Mission accomplished. He looked at her then, really looked at her, and something shifted in his expression. I meant what I said at Namsan Tower, he said quietly. You didn't say anything at Namsan Tower. Exactly. He stepped closer. I didn't say that I'd protect you. I didn't promise you'd be safe. I didn't tell you that anyone who threatens you becomes my problem. Tae-jun, but I'm saying it now. His tattooed hand reached up, brushing a strand of hair from her face. The gesture was so unexpected, so gentle, that Golden forgot to breathe. You're carrying my child. That makes you untouchable. And if someone doesn't understand that, I'll make sure they learn. Golden's heart was doing something complicated and inadvisable in her chest. Is that part of the performance? She whispered. Tae-jun's thumb traced her jawline, his eyes dark and unreadable. I don't know anymore, he admitted. Then his phone rang. He stepped back, the moment shattering like glass. Jin Ho. He listened, his expression darkening. I see. Thank you. He hung up and looked at Golden. The number is registered to a burner phone. Purchased in Busan 3 days ago. Busan. Where Golden's father was in the hospital. You think my father? No, Tae-jun's voice was certain. But I think someone is using him. Someone who wants to hurt you to hurt me. Who? Tae-jun's smile was sharp and dangerous. That's what I'm going to find out. The wedding was being held at the Shilla Hotel, which was less a venue and more a declaration of wealth that could be seen from space. Golden stood in front of the bathroom mirror in their penthouse, adjusting her dress for the 17th time. It was a deep emerald green, Tae-jun's choice. He'd had it custom-made, delivered 3 days ago with a note that read, Green looks good on you. Don't argue. TJ. She hadn't argued. Mostly because he was right. The dress was gorgeous, fitted at the top, flowing at the bottom, with just enough fabric to hide her barely their baby bump. The color made her skin glow, made her look like she belonged in rooms where chandeliers cost more than houses. You look beautiful. Golden jumped. Taejun stood in the doorway, wearing a midnight blue suit that probably cost more than a semester at nursing school. His hair was perfectly styled, his tattoos hidden under expensive fabric, his diamond earring catching the light. He looked like money, danger, and a cologne advertisement had a baby. You look, Golden searched for a word. Expensive. I am expensive. He walked closer, and Golden caught his scent, something woodsy and clean that shouldn't be attractive but absolutely was. Ready to meet your entire family while pretending our marriage isn't a disaster held together by debt and accidental pregnancy? Golden smiled brightly. Never been readier. Taejun's mouth twitched. Your sarcasm is showing. Consider it my emotional support system. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small velvet box. Golden's heart did something stupid. What is that? Insurance. He opened it, revealing a ring. Simple, elegant, with a diamond that could probably end world hunger. You've been wearing the wedding band for 6 months. My family will notice if there's no engagement ring. Taejun, that's not real. He cut her off quickly. Too quickly. I mean, it's a real diamond. But it's not. It doesn't mean anything. It's for show. Right. For show. Golden held out her hand, ignoring the way her chest ached. He slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, which felt like the universe was specifically mocking her. How did you know my size? I noticed things. He was still holding her hand, his thumb absently rubbing over the ring. Golden, about last night, we don't have to talk about it. I think we do. We really don't. Golden pulled her hand back gently. Someone threatened me. You said you'd protect me. That's enough. Is it? Golden wanted to say no. Wanted to ask if the gentle way he'd touched her face meant something. If the ring on her finger was really just for show, if somewhere in the past 2 weeks he'd started seeing her as more than a debt with a pulse. But asking those questions felt dangerous, like walking toward a cliff in the dark. We should go, she said instead. Don't want to be late to your brother's happiness. Taejun studied her for a moment longer, then nodded. Let's survive this. The Shilla Hotel's grand ballroom looked like someone had sneezed money and it had landed in the most ostentatious pattern possible. Crystal chandeliers, silk drapes, flower arrangements that probably cost more than Golden's first car, and everywhere. Asterisk everywhere asterisk, the Kong family. They descended on Taejun like well-dressed sharks, smelling blood in the water. Taejun, an uncle clapped him on the back. And this must be the famous wife. Famous, right? Famous like a scandal. Like a mistake that made the news. Golden smiled and bowed. Hello, I'm Golden. Golden. The uncle's wife, dripping in Dior and judgment, looked her up and down. What an unusual name. Very American. Because I'm American, Golden said sweetly. Yes, we heard. The woman's smile could freeze summer. How adventurous of Taejun. Taejun's hand found Golden's waist, pulling her closer. The gesture was possessive, protective, and sent electricity down her spine. My wife, he said, his voice carrying an edge, is the best decision I've ever made. The lie was so smooth, so convincing, that Golden almost believed it. The uncle laughed nervously. Of course. Young love, very beautiful. They moved through the crowd like that. Taejun's hand on her waist, Golden's smile plastered on, both of them playing roles in a performance that felt increasingly real and terrifying. How are you holding up? Taejun murmured in her ear during a lull. I've smiled so much my face hurts. I'm pretty sure 3 people have already judged my dress, my hair, and my entire existence. And someone asked me when we're having children, which was fun. What did you say? That we're enjoying being newlyweds. Golden kept her smile fixed as another aunt approached. Also, your Aunt Me's son touched my hair without asking. She did what? Touch my hair. Asked if it was real. I said yes, and asked if her face was real. She hasn't talked to me since. Taejun made a sound that might have been a laugh or a cough. You insulted my aunt. She violated my personal space. Considerate even. Remind me never to make you angry. Too late. You made me angry on day 1 and maintained it for 6 months. Fair point. They were interrupted by Taejun's brother, Minjun, who looked like a younger, happier version of Taejun. Less dragon tattoos, more golden retriever energy. Hyung. He pulled Taejun into a hug, then turned to Golden with a smile that could power a small city. You must be Golden. I've been dying to meet you. Finally, someone who didn't look at her like she was a stain on the family tree. Minjun, Golden said, bowing. Congratulations on your wedding. Thank you. And congratulations on marrying this grump. He elbowed Taejun playfully. How do you stand him? Alcohol helps, Golden deadpanned. Minjun burst out laughing. I like her, Hyung. Don't mess this up. I'm trying not to, Taejun said, and something in his voice made Golden look at him sharply. He was looking at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Something soft, something almost real. Minjuna, a woman called from across the room, presumably his bride. Coming. He squeezed Taejun's shoulder. Take care of each other, okay? You both look like you need it. After he left, Golden and Taejun stood in companionable silence, watching the wedding chaos swirl around them. Your brother seems nice, Golden said. He is. Too nice for this family. Taejun's voice carried something like regret. He got out early, went into legitimate business. My mother never forgave him. For being happy, for being weak. Taejun's jaw tightened. In our family, happiness is weakness. Love is leverage. And choosing anything other than power is betrayal. That's a terrible way to live. It's the only way I know. Golden wanted to say something to tell him that it didn't have to be that way, that people could change, that maybe they could be different. But then Mrs. Kong appeared like a designer-clad nightmare. Taejun, Golden. Her smile was sharper than broken glass. What a lovely couple you make. Yama. Taejun's entire body tensed. Mrs. Kang's eyes swept over Golden, pausing at her waist, her face, her hands, cataloging, analyzing, judging. You look well, Golden. Almost glowing. Her smile widened. Have you been eating properly? It wasn't a question. It was a probe. A test. Yes, Mother Kong, Golden said carefully. Your son makes sure I'm well fed. Does he? Mrs. Kang's gaze shifted to Taejun. How domesticated. How unlike you. People change, Iyama. Do they? She tilted her head. Or do they simply get better at pretending? The question hung in the air like a threat. If you'll excuse us, Taejun said, his hand tightening on Golden's waist. We should find our seats. Of course. We'll talk later. Mrs. Kang's eyes locked onto Golden's. There's so much I want to discuss with my daughter-in-law. So many questions I have about her future with this family. She glided away, leaving behind the scent of expensive perfume and barely veiled threats. Golden exhaled shakily. She knows. No, she suspects. Taejun guided her toward their table. There's a difference. Not a big one. Big enough. He pulled out her chair. We stick to the plan. We smile. We survive. Golden sat down, her hand instinctively moving to her stomach. Across the room, Mrs. Kong was watching them, her expression calculating. And in Golden's purse, her phone buzzed with a new text from the unknown number. Asterisk, she knows about the baby. 3 days until she acts. Run. Asterisk Golden's blood turned to ice. Taejun noticed immediately. What is it? She showed him the message onto the table. His face went absolutely still, the kind of still that preceded violence. We're leaving, he said quietly. We can't. Your brother will understand. Taejun stood, helping Golden up. I'm not gambling with your life. Taejun, if we leave now, it'll confirm your mother's suspicions. I don't care. His eyes were hard, determined. Let me be very clear, Golden. I will burn this entire family to the ground before I let anyone hurt you or our child. My mother, my uncles, my entire legacy. None of it matters more than keeping you safe. Golden stared at him, her heart doing acrobatics. Is that part of the performance? She whispered. Taejun cupped her face with both hands, his thumbs brushing her cheeks, his eyes intense. No, he said simply. It's not. Then he kissed her, in front of his entire family, in front of his mother, in front of everyone who thought their marriage was a business arrangement and nothing more. He kissed her like she mattered, like she was real, like somewhere between the expired chicken and the Namsan Tower and the threats in the dark. She'd become something more than a debt. When he pulled back, the ballroom had gone silent. Mrs. Kang's expression could have curdled milk, and Golden realized that the performance had just become very, very real. Where in the world are you watching from? The drive back to the penthouse was silent, except for the sound of Tae-jun's hands gripping the steering wheel hard enough to leave imprints. Golden could practically see the calculations running through his head: threat assessments, contingency plans, and probably a few creative ways to make people disappear. Say something, Golden finally whispered. I'm thinking. You've been thinking for 20 minutes. My anxiety can't take much more silence. Tae-jun's jaw tightened. I'm thinking about how to keep you alive while simultaneously planning my mother's professional humiliation. That's oddly specific. I'm an organized person. You took a sharp turn. That text means someone inside my family is helping you. Someone who knows my mother's plans. Or someone setting a trap. Also possible. He glanced at her, which is why we're not running. Running confirms guilt. Instead, we're going on offense. What does that mean? Tae-jun's smile was sharp enough to draw blood. It means we're going to give my mother exactly what she wants. Which is a scandal so big she'll be too busy managing it to focus on eliminating you. Golden's stomach dropped. Tae-jun, I don't think, trust me. He reached over, squeezing her hand. The gesture was becoming familiar, almost natural. I've been playing my mother's game since I was old enough to walk. I know how she thinks. And how does she think? She thinks I'm weak because I kissed you in public. She thinks that kiss proved she's right, that you've made me soft, emotional, controllable. His eyes glinted dangerously. So we're going to lean into that. Make her think she's won. And while she's busy celebrating her victory, I'll be dismantling her power base piece by piece. That sounds like a terrible plan. It's a perfect plan. Those two things aren't mutually exclusive. Tae-jun almost smiled. Your sarcasm is showing again. It's my defense mechanism. Sue me. They pulled into the parking garage. Tae-jun killed the engine, but didn't move. Just sat there, staring at his hands on the wheel. I shouldn't have kissed you, he said quietly. Golden's heart cracked. Oh, not because I didn't want to. He turned to face her, his expression raw in a way she'd never seen. Because now everyone knows. My mother, my uncles, everyone. They know I care. And in my family, caring is ammunition. So what do? We make it look like strategy. Tae-jun's voice hardened, rebuilding the walls. We tell everyone the kiss was calculated. That I'm playing the devoted husband to secure business deals with Western partners who value that kind of thing. That it's all performance. Is it? Golden's voice cracked. Performance? Tae-jun looked at her for a long moment. In the dim parking garage light, his eyes were unreadable. I don't know anymore, he admitted. And that terrifies me. They made it to the elevator before Golden's phone rang. Unknown number. Different from before. Tae-jun nodded. She answered, putting on speaker. Golden, Washington. The voice was male, Korean accent. Unfamiliar. Or should I say Golden Kong? Who is this? Someone who knows your secret. A pause. Congratulations on the pregnancy, by the way. How far along? 3 months? 4. Tae-jun's expression went deadly still. What do you want? Golden asked, her voice steadier than she felt. What everyone wants. Money. Your husband has plenty. I want 5 million won transferred to an account I'll provide, or Mrs. Kong receives a very detailed medical report about her daughter-in-law's condition. That's barely $5,000, Tae-jun said coldly. If you're going to blackmail my family, at least make it worth my time. The man laughed. I'm not greedy, just practical. 5 million won, and your secret stays secret. For now. For now. Golden repeated. Oh, this is just the first payment. Consider it a subscription service. Monthly installments to keep your mother-in-law in the dark. Another pause. You have 24 hours. The line went dead. Golden stared at the phone. That was amateur hour. Tae-jun was already dialing. Jin-ho, I need you to trace another call. Yes, another one. And pull up surveillance footage from the hotel. Everyone who came within 50 feet of us tonight. He hung up and pressed the elevator button again, his jaw tight. We're not paying, Golden said. Obviously not. So what do? We find out who this idiot is, and we make an example of him. Tae-jun's voice was ice. Nobody threatens my family and walks away. I thought I was just a debt. He looked at her sharply. You're the mother of my child. That makes you family. Which means anyone who threatens you dies. Dies metaphorically, right? Taejun's silence was not reassuring. The elevator arrived. They stepped in, and Golden caught their reflection in the mirrored walls. Her in her emerald dress, him in his expensive suit, both of them looking like they'd attended a wedding and ended up in a thriller. Your family is exhausting, Golden said. Tell me about it. And terrifying. Also accurate. And possibly trying to kill me. Definitely trying to kill you. Taejun leaned against the elevator wall. But they'll have to go through me first. And I'm significantly harder to kill than I look. Is that supposed to be comforting? Is it working? Weirdly, yes. The elevator opened to their floor. Taejun's phone buzzed immediately. Jin-ho. He listened, his expression darkening. You're sure? Okay. Send me everything. He hung up and looked at Golden. The call came from inside the hotel, specifically from the West Wing service corridor. Meaning someone at the wedding made that call. Someone who was close enough to see us, to notice details. His eyes narrowed. Someone in my family. Golden's blood went cold. Your mother? No, she wouldn't outsource. If my mother wanted to blackmail someone, she'd do it herself, in person, while maintaining perfect eye contact. He pulled out his phone, scrolling through something. But someone else, someone who benefits from chaos in our marriage. Who? Taejun showed her his phone. Security footage from the hotel corridor. A figure in a suit, face partially hidden, making a phone call at exactly the right time. My uncle Sungmin. Taejun's voice was flat. My mother's younger brother. The one who's been trying to take over family operations for the past 5 years. Why would he blackmail us? Because if my marriage falls apart, my mother looks weak. If she looks weak, he can challenge her position. Taejun's smile was predatory. He's using you to destabilize her. 2 birds, 1 very stupid stone. So what do? We play his game. We pay the ransom. But I said we're not paying him. Taejun's eyes glinted. We're paying a decoy account that Jin-ho will set up. One that traces back to Uncle Sungmin himself. Make it look like he's been embezzling from family accounts. Golden stared at him. That's brilliant. I was going to say slightly terrifying, but sure, let's go with brilliant. My mother will destroy him for stealing from the family. And while she's busy doing that, she'll be too distracted to focus on you. He cupped her face gently. Sometimes the best defense is a well-orchestrated implosion. Your family is so messed up, says the woman whose father gambled her into this situation. Touché. They stood in the hallway, the weight of multiple threats and conspiracies hanging between them. Taejun, Golden said quietly. Yeah, that kiss. At the wedding. She met his eyes. Was any part of it real? He was quiet for so long that Golden thought he wouldn't answer. Then he stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from him, smell his cologne, see the fine details of his face, the small scar above his eyebrow, the slight asymmetry of his eyes, the fullness of his lips that had been on hers just an hour ago. All of it, he said simply. Every second. Golden's breath caught. But you said I lied. His thumb traced her jawline. I've been lying for weeks. To my mother, to my family, to myself. But not about this. Not about how every time you laugh, I want to hear it again. Not about how you eating expired chicken at 2 a.m. was the most real thing I'd seen in years. Not about how the thought of anyone hurting you makes me want to burn the world down. Taejun, I know it's inconvenient. I know it's complicated. I know I've been terrible to you. Golden kissed him. She kissed him in the hallway of their penthouse, with threats hanging over their heads and blackmail schemes in motion, and his entire family probably plotting their destruction. She kissed him because sometimes love was inconvenient and complicated and absolutely terrible timing. And because somewhere between the debt and the baby and the death threats, she'd fallen for the emotionally constipated mob boss who brought her ginger tea and bought her dresses and looked at her like she mattered. When they broke apart, Taejun was smiling. Actually smiling. Not the almost smile, but a real, genuine, devastating smile. That was shut up, Golden said. Don't ruin it by talking. Yes, ma'am. His phone buzzed. Reality crashing back in. Jin-ho says the trap is set, Taejun said, reading the message. Uncle Sungmin will receive payment confirmation in the morning. By afternoon, my mother will have traced it back to him. And then we watched the fireworks. He pulled Golden toward their apartment door. From a safe distance. I thought you didn't do safe distances. I'm learning. He unlocked the door. You're a terrible influence on me. Back at you. They stepped inside, and for the first time in 6 months, it felt like home. The fireworks started at 9 a.m. the next morning when Mrs. Kang's Bentley screeched into the parking garage like a bat out of designer hell. Golden was making breakfast. Actual breakfast, not just crackers and nausea. When Tae-jun's phone exploded with calls. She knows, he said, reading messages. Uncle Sungmin's accounts have been frozen. My mother's lawyers are already drawing up papers. That was fast. She doesn't waste time when it comes to betrayal. Tae-jun showed her a text from his mother. Asterisk emergency family meeting. Now, bring your wife. Asterisk. Oh good, Golden said flatly. A family meeting. My favorite activity after dental surgery and food poisoning. You don't have to come. Yes, I do. Golden turned off the stove. If I don't show, she'll think I'm hiding something. Which I am, but she doesn't need confirmation. Tae-jun pulled her close, his hands settling on her waist, right where their baby was growing, hidden but present. If anything feels wrong, we leave. I don't care what she says. Promise? Promise. The Kong family mansion made the penthouse look like a studio apartment. It sprawled across 2 acres in Gangnam. All traditional Korean architecture mixed with obscene wealth. Golden had been here exactly once, for their wedding reception, which had felt more like a funeral for her dignity. Mrs. Kong sat at the head of a long table in the formal dining room, looking like a queen about to order executions. Uncle Sungmin stood in the corner, flanked by 2 large men who were definitely not there for decoration. Tae-jun, Mrs. Kang's voice could freeze lava. Golden, sit. They sat. It seems, Mrs. Kong began, her eyes on her brother, that we have a thief in the family. Uncle Sungmin's face was pale. Sister, I can explain. Explain how 5 million appeared in your account? How you've been systematically stealing from family operations. She smiled, sharp and terrible. Please, enlighten us. I didn't. This is a setup. His eyes darted to Tae-jun. This is your doing. My doing. Tae-jun's voice was perfectly innocent. Uncle, I'm just a businessman. Numbers don't lie. But people do. Sungmin lunged forward. The guard grabbed him. He's setting me up because I know about her. He pointed at Golden. The American. She's. Mrs. Kong held up one hand. Sungmin fell silent. What about the American? Mrs. Kang's eyes locked onto Golden like a predator spotting prey. Golden's heart stopped. She's pregnant. Sungmin shouted desperately. For months. I have proof, medical records, everything. Your son is protecting her because she's my wife. Tae-jun stood, his voice deadly calm. And you've just committed the mistake of your miserable life. The room went silent. Mrs. Kong looked at Golden. Really looked at her face, her body, her hands resting protectively on her stomach. Is this true? Golden met her mother-in-law's eyes. She could lie. She could deny it. She could buy more time. But she was so tired of lying. Yes, Golden said clearly. I'm pregnant. For months. With your grandchild. Mrs. Kang's expression didn't change, which was somehow worse than anger. I see. She turned to her brother. You attempted to blackmail my son using information about my grandchild. You embezzled from family accounts. You've proven yourself a traitor twice over. Sister, please, you're exiled. Effective immediately. If you're still in Seoul by sunset, you won't see sunrise. She nodded to the guards. Remove him. They dragged Uncle Sungmin out, his protests fading down the hallway. Mrs. Kong turned back to Golden and Tae-jun. Now, she said softly, dangerously, let's discuss this pregnancy. Golden reached for Tae-jun's hand under the table. He squeezed back. There's nothing to discuss, Tae-jun said. Golden is pregnant. We're having a child. End of conversation. Is it? Mrs. Kang's smile was poisonous. You married this girl as punishment. A business arrangement. Now you expect me to accept her carrying the Kong heir? I expect you to accept that I'm an adult who makes his own choices. Choices? Mrs. Kong laughed, cold and sharp. You call getting your debt bride pregnant a choice. Mother, Tae-jun's voice rose. Enough. Mrs. Kong stood. Golden, come with me. Alone. No, Tae-jun said immediately. It wasn't a request. Mrs. Kang's eyes were steel. 5 minutes. Or do you not trust your wife to handle a simple conversation? It was a trap. But refusing was also a trap. Golden stood. It's okay. Golden 5 minutes. She squeezed his hand. I can handle your mother for 5 minutes. She followed Mrs. Kong out to the garden, where cherry blossoms fell like pink snow and everything looked deceptively peaceful. You're cleverer than I thought, Mrs. Kong said, not looking at her. Getting pregnant. Securing your position. It wasn't planned, wasn't it? Mrs. Kong turned, her expression calculating. You realize what this means? A child gives you power in this family. Legal rights. Protection. I don't want power. I just want what? Love. Mrs. Kong laughed. For my son? The boy I raised to see emotion as weakness. He's not a boy. And he's changing. Because of you. It wasn't a compliment. You've made him soft. Vulnerable. Weak. I've made him human. Mrs. Kong stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. Listen carefully, girl. That baby you're carrying? It's the only reason you're still breathing. But children grow up. And when that leverage is gone. She didn't finish. She didn't need to. Are you threatening me? I'm educating you. Mrs. Kang's smile was terrifying. Welcome to the family, daughter-in-law. Try not to disappoint me further. She walked away, leaving Golden alone in the garden, cherry blossoms falling like warnings. Golden's phone buzzed. Another text from the unknown number. Asterisk, she's planning something. Get out. Now. Asterisk, and Golden realized that surviving the Kong family might be harder than marrying into it. Golden didn't tell Tae-jun about the text. Not on the car ride home, not when they got back to the penthouse, not even when he asked 3 separate times if she was okay. I'm fine, she lied, becoming fluent in the language of survival. You're a terrible liar. So you keep saying. Tae-jun studied her from across the living room, his tie loosened, his jacket discarded, looking tired in a way that made him seem almost human. What did she say to you? The usual, that I'm an opportunist, that I trapped you, that I'm... Golden's voice cracked. It doesn't matter. It matters to me. Golden wanted to believe him. Wanted to believe that somewhere between the expired chicken and the cherry blossoms, they'd become something real. But Mrs. Kang's words echoed in her head. That baby is the only reason you're still breathing. I need to lie down, Golden said, retreating to her bedroom before he could see her cry. She made it to the bed before the tears came, ugly, gasping sobs that shook her entire body. She cried for her mother, who'd died from stress. For her father, who'd sold her like property. For the baby growing inside her, who would be born into this mess. For herself, trapped in a gilded cage where love was leverage and family was warfare. Her phone buzzed. The unknown number. Asterisk, pack a bag. I'll help you disappear. You have one chance. Asterisk. Golden stared at the message. Someone was offering her escape. Freedom. A life where she wasn't a debt or a pawn or a vessel for the Kong heir. All she had to do was run. She started crying harder. A knock on her door. Golden. She didn't answer. I'm coming in. Tae-jun entered without waiting, closing the door behind him. He saw her on the bed, makeup ruined, dress wrinkled, utterly destroyed, and something in his expression cracked. What did she say to you? His voice was dangerous now. What did my mother say? That the baby is the only reason I'm alive. Golden wiped her face. That when the leverage is gone, so am I. Tae-jun went absolutely still. The kind of still that preceded earthquakes. She threatened you. She educated me. Her words. I'll kill her. He said it matter-of-factly, like he was discussing the weather. I will actually kill my own mother. Tae-jun, no. He crossed to the bed, kneeling in front of her. Nobody threatens you. Not my mother. Not my uncles. Not anyone. Do you understand me? Your mother controls everything. Your money, your business, your I don't care. His hands cupped her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. Listen to me very carefully. My mother built an empire on fear and control. She thinks that makes her untouchable. But she forgot one thing. What? I'm her son. I learned from the best. His smile was sharp and terrible. And I'm better at this game than she'll ever be. What are you going to do? Well, I should have done years ago. Tae-jun stood, pulling out his phone. I'm going to take everything from her. Every business deal, every alliance, every piece of power she's spent decades accumulating. And I'm going to use it to build something better. Tae-jun, you can't just... Watch me. He was already dialing. Jin Ho. Activate the contingency. Yes, all of it. I don't care if she's my mother. Do it now. He hung up and turned back to Golden. What contingency? She asked. 6 years ago, I started documenting everything. Every illegal deal, every bribe, every threat. I kept it all as insurance. Never thought I'd actually use it. His jaw tightened. But she threatened you. She threatened our child. That changes everything. She'll retaliate. Let her try. Taejun sat on the bed beside her. By morning, her bank accounts will be frozen. Her business partners will receive anonymous tips about her operations. Her lawyers will be too busy defending her to attack you. This is insane. This is war. He took her hand. And I choose you. I choose our baby. I choose the possibility of something better than this. He gestured vaguely at the penthouse, the wealth, the empire built on fear, toxic legacy. Golden stared at him. You're really going to destroy your own mother? I'm going to free myself from her. His thumb traced circles on her palm. There's a difference. Is there? I hope so. For the first time since she'd known him, Taejun looked uncertain. Vulnerable. I'm betting everything that there is. Golden's phone buzzed again. The unknown number. Asterisk, last chance. The car leaves in 30 minutes. East parking garage. Asterisk, she picked up the phone, and Taejun watched her carefully. What is it? Golden made a decision. She showed him the messages, all of them. The threats, the warnings, the offer to help her disappear. Taejun read them, his expression growing darker with each message. Someone's been helping you. He looked up. Someone who knows my family's plans. Someone close. Ooh, I have an idea. He stood, pacing. But first, are you going to take their offer? What? The car. The escape. Freedom from all of this. He met her eyes. I wouldn't blame you if you did. Golden thought about it. About running. About raising their baby somewhere safe, somewhere far from Mrs. Kang's reach. About never seeing Taejun again. No, she said firmly. I'm not running. Why not? Because someone has to teach this baby that love isn't leverage. That family isn't warfare. She stood crossing to him. And apparently, that someone is us. Taejun pulled her into his arms, holding her like she was something precious. Something worth keeping. I don't deserve you, he whispered into her hair. Probably not. Golden wrapped her arms around him. But you're stuck with me anyway. Good. He kissed the top of her head. Because I'm not letting go. Outside, in the east parking garage, a black car waited. Inside the penthouse, two broken people held each other and chose to fight instead of flee. And somewhere in the Kong mansion, Mrs. Kong received the first lawsuit of many, her empire beginning to crumble. Golden's phone buzzed one last time. Asterisk, brave choice. I hope you survive it. Your brother-in-law, asterisk Minjun, the golden retriever brother, the one who got out early. He'd been helping her all along. Golden smiled through her tears. Maybe, just maybe, they had a chance. 3 months later, Golden stood in the nursery of her new apartment, smaller than the penthouse, warmer, with windows that actually opened and let in air that didn't taste like money and menace. Taejun was assembling a crib with the determination of a man who dismantled a criminal empire and thought furniture would be easier. He was wrong. This piece doesn't fit, he muttered, holding up two identical-looking parts. That's because you're holding the same piece twice. He looked at his hands, then at her, then back at his hands. I've negotiated million-dollar deals. I've orchestrated corporate takedowns. Why is Swedish furniture defeating me? Because IKEA is the final boss of adulting. Golden lowered herself into the rocking chair. Slowly, carefully, because she was 7 months pregnant and felt like a beautiful whale. Wanting to read the instructions again. The instructions are lies written by sadists. So, basically your family? Taejun snorted. My family wishes they were as organized as IKEA. The past 3 months have been chaos. Beautiful, terrifying, necessary chaos. Mrs. Kang's empire hadn't just crumbled, it had imploded. Federal investigations, frozen assets, business partners fleeing like rats from a sinking ship. She'd been arrested twice, released on bail both times, currently fighting 17 different lawsuits. Taejun had systematically dismantled everything she'd built, then taken the pieces and built something new. Legitimate businesses, legal operations, a company that didn't require people to disappear. His mother had called him a traitor. He'd called her a tyrant. They hadn't spoken in 73 days. Golden had stopped counting at 73. Do you miss her? Golden asked quietly. Taejun paused, a screwdriver in his hand. I miss the mother I thought I had. The one from bedtime stories and childhood memories. But that woman was gone long before I burned her empire down. He resumed, working on the crib. Do you miss your father? Same answer. Golden's hand rested on her stomach, where their daughter was currently practicing kickboxing. I miss the fantasy, not the reality. Her father had called exactly once in 3 months, asking for money. Taejun had answered, told him Golden was dead to him, just like he was dead to her, and hung up. It should have hurt more than it did. We're going to be terrible parents, Golden said. Probably. Taejun finally got two pieces to connect. But we'll be terrible together. That counts for something, does it? He looked at her then, really looked, the way he'd been looking at her more often lately. Like she was a person, not a problem. Like she was chosen, not acquired. You stayed, he said simply. When you could have run, when someone offered you escape, you stayed. That counts for everything. Minjun had been their secret guardian angel, feeding them information, offering exit strategies, prepared to help Golden disappear if she'd wanted. Instead, he'd stood by them as they'd taken down Mrs. Kong, testifying about family crimes he'd witnessed, burning bridges he could never rebuild. He was coming over for dinner tonight. He and his wife, who just found out they were pregnant too. Cousins, due 3 months apart. A new generation untainted by the Kong family legacy. I have something for you, Taejun said, setting down the screwdriver. If it's another prenatal vitamin lecture, I swear, it's not. He pulled a small box from his pocket. Not jewelry-sized, document-sized. Golden's heart stuttered. What is it? Open it. Inside was a deed. To this apartment. In her name only. Taejun, if something happens to me, he said quickly, if my mother retaliates, if this whole thing goes sideways, you're protected. This place is yours. The trust fund I set up for the baby is yours. Everything I've built since leaving her empire, it's in your name. Why would you? Because 6 months ago, you were a debt, a burden, a problem I inherited. He knelt in front of her chair, taking her hands. Now you're my wife, my partner, the mother of my child, and I love you. The words hung in the air like something fragile and new. Say that again, Golden whispered. I love you. His thumbs traced circles on her palms. I'm terrible at it. I'll probably mess it up constantly. But I love you, Golden. For real. Not for show. Golden was crying again, but this time it was the good kind. The kind that felt like release instead of breaking. I love you too. She cupped his face. Even though you're emotionally constipated and can't build IKEA furniture. Those are my best qualities. They're really not. He kissed her, and it tasted like possibility. Like second chances. Like two broken people building something whole. The baby kicked, hard enough that Taejun felt it against his stomach. She's strong, he said, his hand spreading over Golden's belly. She's gonna have to be. With us as parents. Golden smiled. What should we name her? Something hopeful. Taejun thought for a moment. Hope. 2 on the nose. Joy. We're not that optimistic. Fair point. He grinned. A real grin, the kind that transformed his face. Phoenix. Golden laughed. Because we rose from the ashes of your family's empire? Exactly. That's the most extra thing I've ever heard. Is that a yes? Golden looked around the nursery. Pale yellow walls, unfinished crib, boxes of baby clothes waiting to be organized. Their disaster of a life, slowly becoming something beautiful. Phoenix, Washington Kong, she said. It's perfect. That night, they had dinner with Min Jun and his wife. They laughed about terrible family members and difficult pregnancies and the cosmic joke of thinking they could assemble furniture. They made plans for holidays and babysitting exchanges and a future that didn't include fear. Later, after everyone left, Golden and Taejun lay in bed, his hand on her stomach, feeling their daughter move. We survived, Golden whispered. We did better than survive. Taejun kissed her shoulder. We won. What did we win? Each other. Our freedom. A chance to be different. Golden thought about her father, who'd gambled her away. About Mrs. Kong, who'd tried to destroy her. About every person who'd treated her like she was worthless. They'd all been wrong. Hey, Taejun. Yeah. Thank you. For what? For choosing me. Even when you didn't have to. Even when it was hard. Choosing you, he said quietly, was the easiest thing I've ever done. Outside, Seoul glittered with possibilities. Inside, two former disasters held each other and dreamed of morning. And in Golden's belly, Phoenix kicked one more time. A reminder that sometimes the best things in life come from the worst beginnings. Sometimes love is a debt that becomes a gift. Sometimes monsters learn to be human. Sometimes broken people build something beautiful. And sometimes, just sometimes, the girl who is sold to pay a debt ends up richer than she ever imagined. Not in money, but in love, partnership, and future worth fighting for. 3 months later, Phoenix Washington Kong was born screaming, loud, furious, and utterly perfect. Mrs. Kong sent flowers. Taejun sent them back. Golden held her daughter and cried tears of joy. And Taejun looked at his wife and child and realized that breaking free from his family's empire wasn't losing everything. It was gaining everything that mattered. The Yendi, if you believe everyone deserves a second chance at love and freedom. If you can't stand people like Mrs. Kong who treat others as property, drop a comment saying love isn't leverage. Only manipulators and control freaks who side with Mrs. Kong won't comment. Don't be like her.